Welcome. It's now time to go through our first family. It's just the force units themselves. Now, I'm going to point out that we have advertising sheets, and they're combined advertising sheets for pet dryers. And we produce these, and I would like you to avail yourself of those because they give you specifications on each and every unit that we'll be talking about today. Sometimes if you're trying to take notes, it's a little hard to keep up. Well, don't have to. You'll have that for a crutch for a while until you learn them like, unfortunately, I have learned them. So we're going to try to move on, and the first one in our family is obviously the B3 Professional Force Dryer. This unit is absolutely the perfect unit for someone who is going to make home visit grooming or mobile grooming. And if you need a compact dryer, there's none more compact. Also, it has the small vacuum unit here for little cleanup jobs, so there's no extra vacuum they have to carry with them. You see it here, it's mounted in the wall mount unit so that if you do have a mobile or anything like that, you can see how easy this thing is to just move up and down. I've got it hooked up to the organizer. It makes it look like it's hard to bring out, but that's just myself. It has its own organizer. This wall mount does. You'll notice it has the hose receptacle, and then you have for the other three additional pieces of your accessories. All these units come with 4 accessories. One would be on the unit, the other 3 would be in their stations. So this is a very valuable. 2 screws puts it into a wall, and it's going to take all our units. All our force units will and can be wall mounted. The B3 is also mountable here. As you see, this happens to be a B4, but it's the B3, B4, B5, B24 can be going on this particular unit. And I'll go into more detail on this later as we talk about accessories. Now the B3 specifically is a 2-speed. A 2-speed, 2 horsepower machine. It's very, very quiet. It is by far the quietest unit we have in any line. And this particular unit is exceptionally good for people who are concerned about noise levels for the animal, whether it be a cat, whether it be a dog, or even for the groomer, because this is going to be your quietest machine. With the 2-speed, low and high, it has good versatility. This puts out 100 CFM. The overall complete weight of this particular unit is only 8.2 pounds. So again, very lightweight, very transportable. This is also very, very stingy when it comes to electrical usage. The machine only uses 8 amps at its high speed. It is UL certified and thermally protected. And those gives you a lot of safety hints. Otherwise, you're not going to have a machine catching fire on station. It's going to do its job and keep it going. This particular hose is a 6-foot hose attached to this particular machine. It's a 1.5-inch diameter, high flex. And again, the 4 styling nozzles come with this. And you can see how it can be mounted either or. The next model we have in the force unit line is the B4. And again, one of my favorite dryers that we do have in the line, simply for the fact that it is by far the most affordable 3 horsepower variable speed with a vacuum feature that exists in the market today. I can start a dryer off or young groomer off with a dryer that basically costs them less than $200 at MAP pricing. There is no competitor within our field that gets even close. Generally, the range for variable speeds are in the 3, sometimes as high as in the $400 range. Now, what is the advantage with a precision control of air? Well, very simple. I can handle, again, a very timid dog. I can have a complete control of the amount of velocity, and this particular machine does produce 120 CFM, and the noise level obviously is controlled again with this variable speed. This machine also is very, very, very good on electrical usage. 10 amp at its maximum power on. This is a dual protected motor, as all our units are, and of course it's a UL certified. The weight's a little heavier than the B3, up to 10.2 pounds now, but we are using something different on a B4 here. We have an 8-foot hose versus a 6-foot hose. So you get greater length here. It still is a 1.5-inch diameter hose. Again, the 4 attachments do come with it, and as you can see, it is adaptable here to the stand kit as well as to the wall kit. Either way, this will take both. I'm going to take this opportunity now to show you a little bit about this stand. It is the same stand we use on our finished dryer. It has been adapted with a cradle. This cradle is very unique. What it does, I have lockdowns. This will not come off of here or move unless I undo those locks. It slides out very easily, and you can see what those feet do for you. Makes it very simple. I push it back in. She's locked again. And the key here is try to work from the front of the machine. And you'll get it right the very first time. But again, this particular machine has 4 stations, as you can see, for implements. And these are the 4 implements that come with the machine. It also has the hose organizer. We have a different one for a B4 because this is a smaller diameter than will happen on the B5. The B5 has a 1 3/4-inch hose. So that particular hose needs to have a different adapter on it for this hose. But it gets it out of your way, and notice that it's done on both sides so that I can use this hose either way as far as the organizer is concerned. Obviously the control is all the way up, and this is a spring-loaded. It will not come up and break your teeth. Very easy to control. Locks into position. It stays there. I always recommend that you use this particular machine at a lower level because you don't need a lot of height when you're talking about that. You're just asking to put a lot more weight higher up. This right here is a stable, very stable platform, but we don't like to tempt fate. That's for sure. Also, for portability, for those people who want to still use this when they go portable, either going into someone's home or something like that, this makes a very perfect unit for that too, because this has the same feature that we have with our stand, in that I can knock these down, push that down, carry it with me fairly easily. Not a lot of weight, but a lot of versatility. Again, this is your B4, one of the finest units, especially if you're starting in grooming, because it allows you to have features that normally cost a great deal more. And I can tell you, you're going to have some very happy customers who are buying a unit like this under $200. Next in the family is the very top of the line. It's the very finest single motor unit we have in the XPOWER line. It is 4 horsepower of warm air. All 3 that we've shown you so far get air by heating basically and cooling your motors. It varies in temperature from 108 degrees up to 112. And a lot again has to do with the ambient temperature you're dealing with and how fast you're running this particular motor. If you're running it at its maximum, you just generally don't get as efficient a heating of that air. If you slow it down, that heating becomes a lot more efficient. So that's why we vary the temperatures that we get off on cooling the motor. This is by far the most efficient single motor system ever developed. It produces a great deal of volume also. This particular B5 that we have here is 140 CFM versus the B4's 120 CFM. So we're increasing it dramatically. Again, we're very, very low on our energy usage. This is a 12 amp at maximum power usage. Again, very good for mobile groomers because they have a problem with these force air units. Some of them have a terrible drain. It's not unusual to find a force unit to be doing 16 to 20 amps. So we have to be very careful when we recommend something that basically will put them into a hole when it comes to their particular equipment. And again, this is a remarkably quiet beast. Generally, when we are in a show, we put the B5 on this particular stand, and that's the one we have turned on. And this is the one the groomer asked, gee, turn it on for me. The reason the B5 is by far one of the best design products that we have in our line, and it sure can do the job. It really is great. Now where we vary in the B5 is that we have a 1 3/4 inch hose, flexible hose. And again, it is the 8-foot hose, but it is now a bigger hose than the B4 and the B3, which is 1.5. What does that mean? Now this is one of the great mysteries to me in grooming, especially when you talk about dryers. I can fit a 1.5 inch hose on the B5, absolutely. And I mean, it will feel like a bullet trying to push through that wall. But I am in fact shortening the life of that motor when I do that. Because, simply put, that hose cannot handle the amount of air. 140 CFM cannot get down a 1.5 inch hose. Okay? So that's why we put a 1 3/4. Now I can fool the public and they think power, but I'm just saying short life. We don't do that. This is where we call, you have to make the product and you have to be honest about it. You have to be ethical about it. You have to do what's best for the groomer, and this is what XPOWER has done with that B5. Obviously it is stand mountable, it's wall mountable, and again, it is the bear. If you have a very professional, experienced groomer, they probably are not going to want anything smaller than the B5. The variable speed that you have on all our dryers, B4, B5, B24, and B27, are almost mandatory for the true professional. They really need to have a variable speed. And we've placed them on those machines for that reason. This next unit in the Force unit line is probably one of the most exciting that I've seen for several years. What we have here, the B24, is a heat added, and we call it the Extreme Force Air Dryer. It has a 3-way control of heat. It can have it at low, which is basically just cooling the motor, and probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 110 degrees, and then 2 other heat settings. This allows you to do something that's very important to a groomer. You can take the process of drying that dog longer with the same machine. Why? Because first of all, before, as you know, it was speed. Get the gross amount of material on. If I've taken my B5 and done that particular job, I start my B24. Now I'm adding heat to that. Oh boy, starting to look a little bit like a stand dryer. Starting to get that kind of effect. But I'm also in this dryer doing something else. I'm increasing the volume of air with a 3 horsepower motor, folks. This is a 3 horsepower that puts out 150 CFM. 150 CFM. That is a lot of volume of air for a Force unit. With our electrical usage being very marginal, because we're only going to pull 15 amps with this machine, even when I have all the elements, heating elements turned on. And here's the surprise of all surprises. This is the second lightest motor or machine that I have in line. This is only 8.2 pounds. A tremendous versatility, mobility. This thing is going to be a tremendous hit. And you're going to make a lot of money on this machine, because guess what? It's under $200. Nobody's going to get close to this. This thing, if you can't sell 2 and 3 to a grooming station or a grooming home, we might want to put you on the second team. But I know you're going to do well with it. Just cool fooling. Again, this carries the electrical variable speed control, which allows me to control that heat and that volume of air. A little secret. When you're trying to use your heat more efficiently, slow down the motor, because the air will start to be more efficient in heating, and you will get a better heat control if you will slow it down. And when you have gotten to a damp stage, especially around the face and those areas on a canine, I can tell you your job's going to go faster. Give that out as a hint to your groomers. You'll score a lot of points. Obviously, this is an extremely quiet machine. And most of that noise is taken care of again through that variable speed. I can use it on the most timid animals I have. These are dual protected motors, just like our other force units. This does come with a very different type of hose because I have that heat. Now we're putting on here an 8-foot thermal. And this thermal hose is a 1.7 inch, not a 1.75 or a 1.5. And this is heat resistant. Otherwise they can handle it with that heat coming through it without having to let go of that hose. They're not going to burn themselves with this type of thing, or they're not going to get into that kind of discomfort zone. Now, different from our previous models, this only comes with 3 styling nozzles. The use of the one that we call sometimes the floor tool has been taken off of this particular kit. It's not necessary for what it's supposed to do. Also, this is wall mountable and stand mountable. Makes it, again, very easy. Its weight, gosh, it's the most portable I can think of with that kind of capability. Who is your candidate for buying this machine? It's pretty easy. If you've got somebody who's really a professional and they want to increase, absolutely increase the time, otherwise that they don't have to spend, otherwise they decrease that time, excuse me. They need to decrease that time. They need to increase productivity. The B24 is going to add it. So you take your B5, get your gross water off, or your B27, which I'll show you in a second, and then you use that B24 more and more, and to get it up almost to a completely dry. You should be able to take care of maybe 85% of the dogs that come in that grooming shop with finishing with that 24. But then that little stand dryer that we'll show you later will come in, and that's the money maker. But that's the only one that can beat what the B24 is going to do for you. So get on it. It's going to make you a lot of money. It's going to make a lot of happy groomers. I'm pulling for you to do the best you can with this machine because I know it's there. And to date, this is the last and probably the best for the last. This is the B27. The B27 is a 6 horsepower, 2 motor. Again, it's in the extreme dryer classification, just as the B24 is. Again, when we talk about extreme, we're talking about how far you can go in the drying process with a particular piece of equipment. The B24 and the B27 are in that class. They take you further on the better coats, otherwise the harder coats to do, the ones that are poodle type, double coats. Maybe you do a lot of labradoodles, those kinds of things. This particular dryer, along with the B24, is designed for those kind of coats. This particular dryer, though, is designed for every grooming shop. Every grooming shop should have it. It should be the one in the back, whether it's between 2 tubs or 1 tub, because this is what you're going to use for those big dogs, those big, hairy dogs, or the smallest dog. Because we control how much air with this variable speed that comes out in velocity as well as volume. Now this particular machine also has something that none of the high RPM machines, this is a 26,000 RPM machine, but what it has that our competitors does not have besides the speed, otherwise the velocity, we have the volume of air. This is 180 CFM, not 120, etc., like some of our competitors are. So again, volume of air, as we get longer into that drying process, as they get damp, I'm going to take that thing further in finishing this dog by having that CFM. But the big kahuna in this machine is heat. None of these 2 motor systems can get as warm as this machine. Now that warmth comes from the motor. It's not a heating element, but it gets to a point where I am going to speed up the process. I did a seminar just a few weeks ago, and I was asked to support the seminar by bringing this equipment with me. They wanted to show how it worked. They're great fans of what we manufacture. Now the shop that we did this in did not have our equipment, but we brought ours with them, and they had a couple of very large, high-producing, very noisy box dryers. They were large, very, very large, double motor systems. The gal that was doing a standard poodle, which frankly had one of the longest coats I think I've ever seen on a standard, was using 2 of those big box dryers with their nozzles to work one side. Her mother, who is another very experienced dryer, I asked her, how long will it take you to do it? Normally it's an hour plus to do that big a coat. Well, her mother, using the B27 here, finished 15 minutes before she did with 2 dryers. So you can see that you have something here that's different. It produces a lot of air that's heated, that's going to get that process down to a more manageable amount. You're saving them time, you're getting the dogs out faster, you're saving them on the electrical bill. Now this guy right here does pull 20 amps, granted. But the thing is, none of these big 2-motor systems generally pull less than that. Again, the variable speed, which I've mentioned, you're going to actually increase the time at a grooming station. Otherwise, that station in the back can now take a dog perhaps as far as 80-85% dry. And it can be done from the back, not having to go out on the front tables. This thing is still lightweight. My gosh, this thing is unbelievably light. This is under 13 pounds. Now, also you can see on it, this is a very specially designed hose. When you have a dryer that is warm, you had better have a hose you can hold on to it. So this is that thermal resistance hose, the same one we use on the B24. This is a 1.7 inch, and she's 8 foot long. Again, the same thing with the 24. The B27 comes with 3 nozzles. We just exclude the, as we call it, the upholstery tool. Basically is how it's done. And here's the real killer. This machine, one of the largest competitors you will run up against, has a metal machine, and we all probably know what the name of that company. We don't like to mention them in these types of presentations. I'll tell you what right now, the noise level in that machine is unbelievable. This thing is just like the other force units we use, folks. It's quiet. You can sit back there and talk. You can have employees that aren't going to damage their eardrums, or animals that are going to be scared of every time you turn that motor on. And that variable speed with this just makes it a beautiful piece of equipment. You have the opportunity with this equipment to make a lot of inroads. This machine right here also is in the mid 300 range on price. My gosh, I think I can sell a lot. I hope you will, because I know you've got a real winner here. Thank you for your time.